cash. Tons of it. I mean, what do you think we're doing out here in the middle of the desert? It's all this money.
I was always fascinated by Las Vegas and always wanted to write about Las Vegas. And then suddenly, as always in these cases, a trial took place of skimming by the Chicago and the Milwaukee wise guys, and these men and the Teamster Pension Fund that had put up all this money for the casinos. And the whole thing was laid out in court. And here, suddenly, I found a great story about the mob and their connections in the Teamsters Pension Fund, buying a casino with a front man, putting a brilliant gambler in charge of it. The whole thing should have been magical, and the whole thing collapsed, and it was all real. It was a great story, and I just jumped on it.
Nick pitched this idea of Las Vegas in the 1970s to the Universal Brass, the front office, and they got very excited about it. And so the way I can remember it, when I did Last Temptation of Christ at Universal, actually it was an independent film picked up by Universal, that led to working on a number of projects. Then I went off to do Age of Innocence. And then I owed a film to Universal. And at the same time, having had such a good experience with Nick Pileggi on Goodfellas, I thought it would be interesting, and this Universal thought it would be interesting too, to revisit the genre that we had kind of explored fully in Goodfellas, but take it to another level, and take it to a national level in a way, as Las Vegas sort of representing America and representing, even in a sense, representing Hollywood in a way.
It's the kind of material that everybody wants Marty to do, which I think sometimes, he's unhappy with because he wants to stretch and do other things. And, people want him to do movies about the neighborhood and the guys and the characters that he just directs so well.
There's no doubt about it that it's a kind of a sequel to Goodfellas. And not direct sequel, but it deals with that world, but only on a bigger scale. And more a film of excess. A world of excess.
DJ 19, second base, a beard.
I was working on the book, and a lot of these people were not cooperative, including the Ace Rothstein character, the real Ace Rothstein. Wasn't cooperative, he was cooperative. He's a brilliant man, but what did he need with a book? He's very wealthy, very smart, and he didn't need his ego played around with in such a way. But then word got out that Marty and I were going to be doing a casino movie next, and Marty had mentioned Bob would play one of the parts. And somehow that got in Variety or some newspaper, because this guy is in Florida, and I get a call from him. And he said, are you guys turning this into a movie? I said, well, let's, if we can get a book or we get a story. And he said, and then I see or hear that Robert De Niro is going to play the part. I said, yeah, that looks like it. Robert De Niro, he said, is the greatest actor of his generation. I said, well, I'm not going to argue with you. And then he said, could I meet Robert De Niro? I said, of course you can, because I realized this was an opening. And so I told Marty and talked to Bob De Niro, and he got on a plane and went right down to see this guy, Ace, in Florida. And they really hit it off. And when the movie was announced, suddenly it became easier to get information for the book. And people who slammed doors in my faces, hung up, had their lawyers threaten me, all of a sudden they're calling me up to meet Bob De Niro or this Sharon Stone or Joe Pesci or Marty Scorsese. So, I'm the writer, I'm there, and all of a sudden it opened up. So I immediately started doing all of the material we had for the book, put it into the movie.
Nick hadn't actually finished writing the book, so it was a much different process developing Casino, because with Goodfellas, he had the book finished, and it was an easier process adapting from a book which had a real structure. And in this case, it was like a pile of notes.
I had already outlined the book to some degree, and Marty had gone over the outline. And we try to say, what is the narrative storyline here? And then I'll come up with a version, and then he'll come up with a version, and then we kind of move it around until we have the structure. And once he knew what the narrative of the book was, and everything that was going to be in the book, he then was able to juggle it around in his head to make it a movie. I mean, the book, if you go back and look at the book is a basic straight narrative. It's basically chronologic. It might jump around a little bit, but not that much. The movie is a wilder journey.
You ever do anything like that again, I'll fucking kill you. You can spot these assholes by watching the way they bet. Like this guy. He's betting lavender chips at 500 each with only one little problem. He's always guessed right.
It's based on riffs in a way, you know, men talking, telling stories, going off on tangents and digressions. And how far could you go off on a digression and still bring it in, back in it, cut it to a certain point as fast, and then bring it back into the main line of the narrative. And that's always, some people have agreed that that happened in the film, and others said that's one of the problems with the film, that it didn't happen. But it's a style that we kind of started in Goodfellas, and Nick and I. And so Nick and I took that style that we developed and took it to its furthest limits of shaping with many asides taken through the narrative by the use of voiceover.
Voiceover is key, but it's got to be real voiceover. And I talked to these guys. I got them on tape, and you can't write that. You can't write the way a guy out of the Chicago gangs talks.
Here was the perfect front man. I mean, what the fuck else could he be? He didn't know too much. He didn't want to know too much, especially that the bosses made the Teamsters lend him the money. He wanted to believe the Teamsters gave him all that fucking money because he was smart.
So when you've got that body of dialogue, how can you not use it? It's priceless. And so we made it so that it was a part of the narrative.
What am I going to do? Go back home and start a war? I mean, Nicky's a made guy, and I'm not. I can't do that.
Careful, gaming agent.
But as I got more voices, and as these people began to open up a little bit, in the end, we had one voiceover, then we realized we had a couple.
Ace was so fucking worried about his casino, he forgot what we were doing out here in the first place.
There's even one line of voiceover from Frank Vincent's character that breaks the whole rhythm, but it's a very important line.
There's one thing about these old-timers. They don't like any fucking around with the other guy's wives. It's bad for business. So I lied.
And so I thought it was important to bring this third character, minor character, in and hear his voice in his mind. That's the only one you do in the film.
And background action, action! FBI! Don't be alarmed. We have business to do.
I think the big highlights of it are true. Of course, it's hard to sometimes always stick totally to the truth because it's just not cinematic. And, you know, sometimes it happened on Tuesday, but in our movie it's going to have to happen on Friday. And some people will actually be very offended by that and upset by it. It was Nick's job to make Ace understand and to get him to approve, because he did read the script and he did have to approve the script, which always makes studios very nervous and writers very nervous.
The minute I finished working on the movie, I immediately went back to the book. And I was typing every minute, and my editor, Michael Corda, was unbelievably helpful because it was really murderous. Because I had to get the book out before the movie. That's hard if they're already shooting the movie in Las Vegas when I'm still typing. I can't imagine the mob getting to a better position than they were in Vegas in the 70s before they lost it all. It's Paradise Lost, really.